It was just before noon when Joshua stepped up onto the front porch of the cabin. He took a deep breath. The soaring elation he had felt when Lydia came back to talk with him had long since vanished on the walk home. He took another quick breath and hunched his shoulders slightly, as though bracing for a sudden blow, and opened the door. He saw it instantly. He couldn't have returned at a worse time. He had hoped the family would be scattered about, engaged in various activities, so his entrance would not be quite so dramatic. But they were all there, gathered around the table, the old family Bible open in front of them. For a moment it was like the scene was frozen in time. Matthew and Rebecca stared at him, eyes wide and round. Melissa's back had been to the door, but she jerked around, and now her eyes were riveted on her brother's face. Joshua saw the sorrow in them and knew that it was for him. Nathan had evidently been the one reading from the Bible when they heard Joshua's footsteps on the court. He shot a quick glance in Joshua's direction, then suddenly became intensely interested in the page before him. His mother's head came up slowly, first to search Joshua's face, and then, almost imperceptibly, turning enough to watch her husband, the anxiety etching deep lines around the corners of her mouth. But it was to his father that Joshua's eyes were drawn, pulled up by the power of the dark eyes boring into him. Benjamin Steed did not move, not even so much as the flicker of an eyelid. Joshua could feel the anger seething just below the stone-cold exterior. He took another quick breath. It was going to be worse than he thought. He walked over and sat down next to his mother. "Mama, I know I didn't come home last night. I was with some friends. I didn't realize it was as late as it was. We fell asleep, Anne." Benjamin Steed came straight out of his chair. "Friends?" he asked incredulously. "That wouldn't be the Murdoch boys, would it?" Marianne took a quick breath. "Rebecca, you and Matthew go outside and feed the chickens." Rebecca, frightened by what was erupting around her, stood quickly, but Matthew started to protest. One look from his father silenced the boy instantly. They hurried out, and Benjamin went to the door, shutting it hard behind them. Whirled, his eyes blazing. But if he had expected it to somehow cow Joshua, it didn't work. He whirled, his eyes blazing. They hurried out, and Benjamin went to the door, shutting it hard behind them. He whirled, his eyes blazing. But if he had expected it to somehow cow Joshua, it didn't work. For Joshua had dropped his eyes and was looking at his hands. "Well?" Benjamin demanded. Joshua didn't go. "Well, what?" "Look at me!" his father thundered. Slowly, Joshua raised his head. "Well, what?" No longer trying to hide the weariness in his voice. "What? What? I asked you if you thought those two rum-soaked pieces of river trash were your friends." "Don't even know the Murdoch boys." "Oh, you don't even know the Murdoch boys," Joshua shot back. "How can you say what they are?" "Benjamin," Marianne broke in, both her eyes and her voice pleading with him, "we can talk this out without shouting." Benjamin threw her a withering glance and stalked back over to where the others sat. He leaned across the table to face Joshua. I may not know them, but every person in Palmyra Village knows of him. They're tavern rats, riff-raff that good folks stay clear of. For a moment, Joshua stared at the flaring nostrils and clenched teeth, almost feeling his father's hot breath on him. Then something inside him snapped. Reasoning with this man was impossible, and there was no pleasing him, no matter how hard he tried. He had learned that again and again. Straightened slowly, squaring his shoulders, the anger in him suddenly hard, cold. He was tired of being treated like the slop they feed the hogs. He stood, bringing his face to within inches of his father's. I guess you would recognize Tavern Riff-Raff, Pa. Oh, I guess you would recognize Tavern Riff-Raff, Pa, he said quietly. After all, we only had to wait an hour while you and your friends... He spat out the word with heavy sarcasm. Lifted a mug or two of your own. Marianne jerked up, her eyes shocked. Joshua! Melissa and Nathan were likewise stunned. Benjamin leaned even closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. Even Joshua realized he had gone further than he had intended. He straightened, turning away. Sorry, he muttered. But they're my friends. We had a few drinks together, that's all. Benjamin stared at his back, his chest rising and falling. Finally, he turned to Marianne and threw up his hands in disgust. And that's it. With that weak apology, we're supposed to forget it, let it all pass. This love sack calf gets his feelings bruised because a little snippet named Lydia McBride won't give him the time of day, and we're supposed to overlook it all. Joshua whirled first to glare at his father, then at Melissa. I thought he would punch him. She shook her head quickly, her eyes pleading, but the damage had been done. He turned away, starting for the stairs. You leave Lydia McBride out of this, he said darkly. Lydia McBride is the spoiled daughter of a high-minded storekeeper who thinks farmers like us are a little better than stray livestock. If you think for 1 minute you can waltz in there and impress her with your patched-up trousers and manure-covered boots, then you're even a bigger fool than I thought. Joshua's mother jerked around her face. Benjamin Steed, that was uncalled for. Barely glanced at her. Stay out of this, Mother. Josh was being a fool, and it's time somebody told him so. Joshua turned slowly, his fists clenching and unclenching. Anger rose in his throat like a surge of fire. He took 2 steps toward his father. I told you to leave Lydia McBride out of this. Nathan leaped to his feet. He jumped between Joshua and his father. He grabbed Joshua's arms. It ain't true, Josh. Pa didn't mean it. He swung around to face his father. Lydia McBride isn't the issue, Pa. Last night is the issue. With equal swiftness, Melissa rose and moved to face her father. She reached out and touched his arm. Papa, she said softly. She had not used that form of address with him. Wait, Melissa? Papa, she said softly. She had not used that form of address with him since she had been 12. Papa, Papa, she pleaded. Finally, he pulled his eyes away from Joshua and looked down at her. Maybe Joshua did have too much to drink last night, and he was wrong not to let us know where he was. But can't we talk it out? Anne jumped on that. Melissa's right, Ben. Last night is the issue. Now let's sit down and deal with the issue. Joshua only half listened as the rest of his family stood as buffer between him and his father. Manure on his boots? No one was more keenly aware of the gap between himself and Lydia than he was. Every time he was around her, he felt like an oafish teenage boy hanging around, trying to get a glimpse of the royal family. His father's words came too close to the hard-edged truth, and they cut deep. Oddly, what hit him the hardest was the sudden knowledge that there would be no asking for a chance to go to the Johnson farm on Wednesday. 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 He turned and walked to the fireplace, with disappointment as bitter as milkweed in his mouth. Joshua's father swung around to follow him, and Joshua knew his family had lost. "You want to talk about the issue?" he said, his voice trembling with indignation. "All right. The issue is not whether Joshua came home last night. He's a man now, or supposed to be." It was flung out with open contempt. "And able to take care of himself." He glared at Nathan and Melissa, his expression daring them to disagree. "Nor is the issue that he shamed his family in front of people from 3 different townships." Joshua snorted in disgust. "What are you?" But his father rode over him, his voice rapidly raising in both pitch and volume now. "We won't even mention how his son of 9 talks to me like I was some kind of mongrel dog or something." "Pa," Nathan started, but Benjamin whirled on him, cutting him off. "Stay out of this, Nathan. Your mother wants to talk about the issues. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do." "Whatever you say, Pa," Joshua said. "Oh, whatever you say, Pa," Joshua said, forcing boredom into his voice, knowing it would further infuriate him, and suddenly wanting to do just that. He wanted to cut, to jab back as hard and as painfully as his father was striking at him. "Why don't you tell us, Pa? What is the issue here?" No, abort. "Why don't you tell us, Pa? What is the issue here?" "What is the issue here?" His father's face was flushed now, a deep, mottled, angry red. "The issue is you choose to be with trash, and now people are starting to wonder if Joshua Steed is trash too." Oh, it was Joshua's turn to be incredulous. He threw up his hands and gave a hoot of derisive laughter. "You think that bothers me? Let them think what they want." "Well, it better bother you," Benjamin roared. "You don't walk barefoot through a corral without a whole lot of stink sticking to you." "Oh, a corral." "You don't walk barefoot through a corral with a whole lot of stink sticking to you." "You don't give one hoot about what people think about me," Joshua shot back, now shouting as well. "I'll tell you what's bothering you. You're afraid if Joshua Steed stinks, someone might think his almighty righteous father stinks too. That's the real issue here." Benjamin's eyes narrowed, and he stepped forward. "You watch that smart mouth of yours, boy." Joshua leaped forward and crashed a fist down against the table, causing his mother and Melissa to jump. He dropped his voice to a menacing hiss. "No, Pa. Let's have it out. Let's get down to the real issues here." His reaction startled his father into momentary silence, and throwing all restraint to the devil, Joshua pressed in. "You're so worried about what people think of us Steeds. Maybe you'd better be thinking about firing them Smith boys you hired." The change of direction caught everyone by surprise. His mother's head jerked up. Nathan swung around and stared at Joshua in shock. Melissa, too, was staring, baffled by the unexpected direction the argument had just taken. Even his father rocked back a little. "The Smith boys?" he echoed. "Yeah, the Smith boys, particularly Joseph." He shook his head. "You're so worried about the Murdoch boys. Well, at least they ain't going around saying they've seen God and angels." Nathan shot his mother a quick look. She met it, then shook her head quickly. "What are you talking about?" his father demanded, clearly caught off balance by Joshua's offensive. Why don't you go into town and listen to what people are saying about Joe Smith and about you for hiring him as your helper?" "What are they saying about Joseph?" Melissa asked, truly puzzled now. "That he claims he saw God and the devil out in the woods near his house." Again, Nathan's eyes darted to his mother. His father was staring at him, not sure he had heard correctly. Joshua rushed on, his resolution solidifying even as he spoke. "Yes." He patted Melissa's arm. Then he looked to his mother. "I'll come each day to help with the farm work, but I'll be staying in town from now on." Emotions on his father's face were study in complexity The emotions on his father's face were a study in complex. Hyphen. Dash and a hyphen. The emotions on his father's face were study in complexity. The emotions on his father's face were a study in complexity. Shock, bewilderment, anger, betrayal, hurt. Finally, he stepped back and turned away. "Don't be doing us any favors," he growled. "We can manage without you." Joshua smiled sadly, amazed at the calm which had come over him. "I won't be coming for you, Pa. I'll be coming for Ma and the family. I won't be letting them go hungry next winter because of me." He turned to his mother and took her hands in his. Her eyes were shining with wetness. "It'll be all right, Ma." He took a deep breath. "It's time." Her lips trembled, and then she suddenly threw her arms around him, and he could feel her body shake convulsively. Joshua pulled her close and hugged her tight. From behind them there was a gruff bark. "I'll be going into town." Benjamin swung around. From behind them there was a gruff bark. "I'll be going into town." Benjamin swung around, grabbed his hat from the peg, and disappeared out of the door, slamming it hard behind him. "It's time." "Oh, what?" "It's time, Ma," Joshua said again softly, patting her shoulder. "It'll be for the best." It was after dark when Benjamin Steed came out of the front door of Phelps Tavern in Palmyra Village. Hypocrite! He stopped, torn with conflicting emotions. His own business, and that when it came to religion, a man's heart was his own affair. Gossip and rumor making. Sighed. The Smiths had been good, solid workers. More than that, he had liked them. Joseph. He shook his head with his usual unflinching honesty. Especially Joseph. But the stories had been even worse than Joshua had intimated. His first inquiries in the tavern met with suspicion or open contempt. But when the men found out he was new to the area and had only doings in the night, fantastic accounts of had been right. People were talking, and already Benjamin Steed's name was being linked unfavorably. Not that he believed it all. Benjamin well knew how stories could get started and then multiply like a litter of mice in a grain silo. But he also knew that in many cases, stories usually had at least some basis in fact, and that troubled him deeply. Suspiciousness about any kind of open spiritualism. He'd seen too many hand wringers. People on fire with the spirit. Oh, hand wringers. He'd seen too many hand wringers. People on fire with the spirit. Religion was like a lifeline cast at them in a dark and stormy sea, and they clung to it with wild desperation. That Joseph turned out to be one of these kind was a surprise to him, for he had not seemed that way in the fields. He sighed again, his thoughts turning to Joshua and the events of the afternoon, but he brushed it aside quickly. Thoughts in that direction were too painful, and he straightened abruptly, making up his mind. He walked over to where the horses and the buckboards were tied. An older teenage boy was lounging in one of the wagons, just as his father had said he would be. Benjamin fished a coin from his pocket and motioned to the boy. "Yes, sir? Do you know where the Smith farm is? Down on Stafford Road." "Yes, sir, I do." "Here's 2 bits. Will you take a message to young Joseph Smith for me? The boy glanced at the money, his eyes suddenly interested. Yes, sir. This is Joseph Smith, Jr., the son, not the father. Yes, I know. Benjamin hesitated. Then, with a shake of his head, handed the boys the money. Tell him Benjamin Steed has finished up the work he has for them. I won't be needing him and his brother anymore. Using the heel of a loaf of bread, Benjamin Steed mopped up the last of the gravy from the squirrel's stew and put it in his mouth. Previous Sunday, with a few of his things stuffed into a burlap bag, and that time of the events of that terrible Easter Sunday, nor had he even once mentioned his oldest son. Late that same evening he had come back from town, with the smell of ale on his breath, and had gone to bed without a word to either her, or the children. The next morning, when Becca had slipped at breakfast and made a comment about Joshua, Benjamin had shot her such a look that no one of the family had dared bring up the subject again. She had borne it in silence up to this point, but she could bear it no more, and confrontation or not, she was ready to take action. She's like, I'm ready to go get some ice cream, pistachio, but I won't yet. Melissa was taking the dishes to the small table where Becca was starting to wash the dishes in the iron kettle. Nathan, who was sitting across the table from his mother, started to get up, but she reached out and grabbed his hand. Nathan? Yes, Mother? Mary Ann took a quick breath. I'd like you to go into town for me. Benjamin was licking the gravy from his fingers. He stopped and his hand lowered slowly to the table as he turned and gave a sharp look. Nathan and me have got to finish harrowing the southeast corner before dark. It's a farm term, but what is harrowing? Mary Ann didn't look at her husband, just rushed on quickly. Oh, I really want pistachio ice. Mary Ann didn't look at her husband. Oh, Nathan and me have got to finish harrowing the southeast corner before dark. Mary Ann didn't look at her husband, just rushed on quickly. I want you to go into the village, see if you can find where Joshua is staying. Melissa stopped in mid-stride and turned back around slowly. Becca froze in the act of slipping one of the plates into the water, but she didn't turn around. Matthew was lying on the floor playing with the dog. He looked up, eyes suddenly anxious. Even the dog raised its head and cocked an ear, sensing the sudden change of atmosphere in the room. Benjamin stood up quickly, slowly. He looked down at Nathan, studiously avoiding his wife's face, to get the mules hitched up and bring them on down to the field. Ben! The sharpness in her voice surprised her as well as him. For real, this dude being such a dick. He turned, his eyes challenging. Don't press this woman. Was clearly written across his face. But Mary Ann Morgan Steed, normally a quiet and gentle person, couldn't stop now. She had lain awake the previous 4 nights brooding over what had happened. For nearly 22 years, she had lived with this man. She knew the unbendable stubbornness of which he was capable. She also knew that Joshua had pushed him beyond any limits previously reached, and that his forced silence covered a deep sense of betrayal and hurt. I'll not be asking him to come back, Ben, she said quietly, but I can't go on not knowing if he's all right. Isn't this the same son who promised he'd be back to help with the farming? He gave a short, bitter laugh. Most of his big talk, I suppose. No, you dick, it's because it's more important to obey your father in your father's home. piece of shit old asshole man. Melissa came back to the table to stand by her mother. It takes time to find a place to stay. Her father looked at her, and Mary Ann could see the hurt in his eyes. The whole family was lining up against him, or so it must seem to him. Mary Ann stood and came around the table to lay a hand on her husband's shoulder. Ben, I know Joshua did wrong. No one is saying he didn't, but I can't go on acting like he never was our son. He ain't been acting like our son. You piece of shit old asshole dick, crusty, nasty, disgusting man. He's fucking right. Not a goddamn second of him giving his every single fucking blood, sweat, and teardrops up your fucking asshole could never fix it. You're just gonna be a stubborn piece of shit dick to him until you're dead. You'll never see a reason, and you'll never value a single thing from anyone else. Prick. He ain't been acting like our son. It was said low, almost grumbled, but Mary Ann felt a quick leap of hope. Benjamin, too, wanted to know where Joshua was. Says who, you bitch? Sorry, you cunt. No, I mean, what do you mean, Mom? His pride wouldn't let him admit to that, but she knew him well enough to read the concern beneath the outer gruffness. She decided to take a chance that she had read him correctly. If you say so, I won't send Nathan, but I think we need to try and at least find him. He searched her face, then finally turned to Nathan. Got some work I can do on the fence along the creek. We'll finish the harrowing tomorrow. Nathan nodded soberly. You could ride one of the mules, I suppose. Nathan nodded again. That would be good. I'll go saddle up. Mary Ann watched her second son leave the cabin, then spoke. I'll get some bread and things together. She smiled at her husband, her eyes suddenly moist. Thank you, Ben. He brushed it aside gruffly, a little embarrassed, and moved to the door to get his hat. Why don't you move to your coffin, you old nast? Melissa, on a sudden impulse, went to his side. She went up on tiptoes and kissed him on the cheek. Thank you, Pa, she whispered. Thank you, Pa. Thank you, Pa. Ugh. 5 minutes later, Mary Ann came out of the cabin. She had 2 warm loaves of bread wrapped in a cloth. There was also a crock of pickles and some crab-apple preserves. All were carefully placed in a flour sack. Nathan was at the head of the mule, which was now saddled and flicking its ears lazily back and forth. Matthew and Becca stood next to him, Matthew patting the mule's neck absently. Melissa followed her mother out with Joshua's jacket and a brush mist when he had packed so hurriedly. Nathan helped them put the things in his saddlebags. Then he swung up onto the mule's back. You'll just have to ask in town if anyone knows where he is, his mother said, touching his leg. Melissa stepped forward, looking grave. I'd start with Lydia McBride. Joshua won't admit it, but he's got it pretty strong for her. I'll bet she's at least seen him. I thought about that, Nathan nodded. She smiled, waved. I'm going down to see if I can help Pa with the fence. Matthew, Becca, why don't you come with me? That's a good idea, Mary Ann said. You go on along. I'll finish the dishes. Oh, just let him go work himself mostly to death. He'll stop. He'll quit finally. You can't work yourself to death. He'll lay down as long as nobody fucking carries him back into the house and fusses over him and feeds him. He'll get the fuck back up and he'll walk his ass back in and he'll admit to himself that it's not as bad as he thought, or he's better than he thought he was. As the 3 of them trooped away, Nathan watched them go. Then he looked down at his mother. I'll find him, Ma. You know Joshua. He'll be all right. Mary Ann felt a sudden lump in her throat. I know. It's just that. She stopped and sighed. If we don't do something now, he may never come back. A look of surprise crossed Nathan's face, but almost immediately he nodded, sensing she was right. I'll find him. He picked up the reins, but stopped again. Ma, Yes, son. I asked Pa why Joseph and Hiram didn't come to work this week. She nodded. I know. I asked him too. Did he tell you what he did? Yes. I'm afraid Joseph will think it's because I told Pa about the... He stopped, not sure of what word to use. About what happened to him when we prayed. Joseph is a good boy, she said, shaking her head. I think he'll understand. Nathan considered it, then nodded, a little relieved. Mary Ann smiled up at him. What a good heart this one had, she thought, not so filled with intensity, not so insecure that he had to prove his worth to himself. Nathan? Yes? Have you given any more thought to what Joseph told you? His brow furrowed. Yes. And? I don't know, Ma. He stared at his hands, which were toying with the hair on the mule's mane. Finally, he looked down at her. What about you? Have you given it any more thought? Yes, great deal. Well, he prompted when she said nothing more. She turned and gazed out across the field, watching her 3 children disappear into a small stand of trees and brush. I'll turn the oven up. I think it's true, Nathan. I'm not for sure it's positive, but the feelings just keep coming. I think it's true. The feelings keep coming, so you think it's true. Interesting. For a moment, Nathan looked envious. That would please Joseph. A fleeting, wistful smile touched the corners of her mouth. Are you telling me that Benjamin is the kind of man that is not looking for God? I'm pretty sure he would love to know that there's somebody that can create God. It might give him some motive. So it might make him think he can too. But doubting a thing already, even doubting the doubters, the doubt them, doubting. Better than hope. Right. For fuck's sake, probably does not believe that. He probably just thinks we don't. 4 days, not that long. I think he knows. I don't think he thought not that. Josh knows that his dad doesn't care and never will. Say you care, but that doesn't change the fact of your actions. It doesn't change the fact of having to coexist with you. Say what you want, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you talk. want to plant an orchard. Fucking shit about her until his brother fell in love with her, and now he wants her out of some fucking insanely fast act with jealous thing. Fucked up. God help us. The high cheese book. The high cheese book. Wow, Mr. Lund. You couldn't come up with anything better than his face was in half showdown, highlighting the final one. Oh, the high cheese book. Never was anything else written about a woman's beauty than her high cheekbone. Oh, sure, now we're going. We haven't lost Nathan doesn't even take the time to understand that she's such a bitch. Her name was Barbara Allen. Her body began to sway back and forth, moving, barely moving, but somehow, in that restraint, conveying this mournful sorrow of unrequited love and young womanhood denied. 'Twas in the merry month of May, the green buds were a-swellin'. She threw one hand out, taking in the richness and the true beauty that surrounded her. Sweet William on his deathbed lay for the sake of Barbara Allen. Nathan felt a quick chill scurry up his back. It was a haunting melody brought to America generations before. Oh, you mean like... English immigrants. It's sad news that always moved him. Oh, it was a sad one. But now as her voice carried to him clear and true as the soft chiming of a crystal bell, he found himself mesmerized. Barbara Allen. As Lydia sang the verses, the story unfolded. God help us all, there's more. Unmoved by William's deathbed plea that only her kiss could save him, he tripped lightly down the stairs and out of the door. But when the death knell began to sound, the bell cried out in accusation, "Hard-hearted Barbara Allen!" Pierced with sorrow, the last stopped the funeral bier, and peered into the face of the dead man. Lydia's voice dropped in pitch, taking on a sudden huskiness, and the tempo slowed. The flames stopped and she stood motionless, eyes closed, to finish the tale of Barbara Allen. "Oh, Papa, Papa, don't dig my grave, and dig it deep and narrow. Sweet Will has died of love for me. I'll die for him tomorrow." Oh, it's because she didn't love him. They buried him in the old churchyard. They buried Miss Barbara beside him. From his grave there grew a red, red rose, and from her grave a briar. They grew to the top of the old church tower. They could not grow no higher. They hooked, they tied, and a true love knot, a rose around the briar. Her voice died, last notes seeming to hang forever in the still air. She did not stir, nor did Nathan. He felt a sudden stab of shame. He had intruded on her, without her permission or knowledge, and he knew she would be embarrassed to know he had done so. Ashamed, he began to back away. He would wait near the barn until she decided to come out of the orchard. Perhaps his feet made a noise in the orchard grass, or maybe she caught his movement out of the corner of her eye. Whatever it was, she suddenly whirled. "Oh!" he heard her gasp. One hand flew to her mouth, and she fell back a step. Blushing furiously, Nathan stepped out into full view. Lydia? Her hand was still up, and there was fright in her eyes. He swept off his hat and rushed on. "I'm Nathan Speed, Joshua's brother." Her hand came down slowly as recognition dawned. "Oh, your aunt said I could find you out here. I..." He stopped, unconsciously twisting the hat around and around in his hand. "I'm sorry for sneaking up on you." "No, you're not. You just wish you could have gotten away with it. I was about to speak when you started to sing. You lying little dick! Ah, cha! What? You lying little boy!" Oh, wait, when she started to sing. Oh, I thought she meant when she turned around and saw him. Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, I'm Nathan Speed. I'm sorry for sneaking up on you. I was about to talk. You were singing. I couldn't help myself, obviously. For shame, for guilt, for embarrassment. I did chapter 7 and